What is going on, YouTube? Last week, something happened that me 5 years ago would have never expected and would have difficulty wrapping my head around. Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as the Director of National Intelligence. And if that isn't crazy enough, of all the administrations that swore her in for that role, it was the Trump administration. Can you imagine in 2019 or 2020 hearing that person assume that role in that administration? Totally bizarre. Seeing a director of national intelligence who's so against regime change around the world is an unprecedented thing. As a constituent, my number one concern is stopping global wars. I care about a lot of other stuff, but stopping global wars is my number one policy position. In an ideal world, this is something I would be completely hopeful for. Tulsi, the person who's been against regime change, time and time again, standing up to moves by administrations on the Republican and the Democrat side to oust certain leaders, destabilize countries, and put them under U.S. occupation. Tulsi has had a pretty good record speaking out against the Iraq War, against ousting Bashar al-Assad. She's against regime change in Venezuela and Iran. All things that have brought her skepticism and have her labeled as soft on dictators. The United States is not ousting dictators from a benevolent perspective, but are doing it because those dictators oppose United States hegemony around the world and don't want to let the United States operate in their countries. That's why the United States has selective support of dictators all over the globe. And even recently, they supported a former Al-Qaeda and ISIS member becoming the president of Syria with no election process at all. And that's fine that a terrorist who's against democracy can lead a country because he does it from the US side rather than against it. This is something that Tulsi seems to understand, which is a good thing. She understands that the United States is not meant to be the world police. She was also against United States support for Saudi Arabia's war on Yemen. So her track record is almost good, but there is one glaring issue on her track record, and it's her unequivocal support of Israel. Not surprising, but disappointing. This is the one line that a lot of people in power refuse to cross. She went against Democrats' boycott of Netanyahu's visit in 2015. She had relentless support for Israel since the war began in 2023. She has no issues with the funding of Israel and has not ever mentioned stipulating that support for Israel with any conditions, essentially mirroring both the Democrat and Republican stance on Israel, the one thing both parties seem to agree on. Despite her horrible stance on Israel, which I'm not excusing at all, and it's definitely deserving of criticism, having a director of national intelligence who's generally against war is an unprecedented thing. You don't see that a whole lot. And the director of national intelligence does have the ability to steer the country away from war by presenting intelligence in a way that emphasizes going against war. We've seen it all before. In 2003, they lied about Saddam Hussein developing weapons of mass destruction and presenting the information in a way that it was imminent to invade Iraq, liberate the people, and stop Saddam from developing a nuclear weapon. All lies. There was no evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and they destabilized Iraq after their invasion. So Tulsi can use their intel to direct the country in an anti-war direction. If you invade Iran, it will not go well because it could destabilize the region, as we've seen time and time again. It will simply create a free-for-all for terrorist organizations to take over the country, create another Mad Max scenario in yet another Middle Eastern country, so on and so on. Basically suggesting all the ways that war should and could be avoided. However, if Trump does want to invade a country, that does not give Tulsi power to stop him from invading a country. Although Trump ran on being the anti-war candidate, I would hope that he upholds that position, and his nomination of Tulsi, an outspoken anti-war former progressive, signals to me that Trump will likely keep this anti-war thing going. But it's hard to say, considering Israel is really pushing for war with Iran, and Trump and the entire United States government seems to have an issue telling Israel and Netanyahu no. There's also the question of whether Tulsi decides to be principled in her anti-war stance or flip sides, like she did before when she was a progressive anti-war Democrat and decided to become a Republican. Although there's two ways to really look at that. Is she an opportunist who will jump wherever she needs to advance her career? Or did she genuinely see Democrats as the war hawk party and decided that if you're anti-war, the best direction to go is the Republican Party? She was, after all, a former Bernie Sanders supporter, and Bernie himself, originally not a Democrat, is very open to working with Republicans towards a common goal, as long as that goal is a common goal, unlike Democrats who seem to work with Republicans anytime the topic of conversation is war. So it's a little iffy trusting whether Tulsi is a principled person or not. My gut feeling says she will be, but you never really know with these people. I can say I would rather have Tulsi than someone else, another garden variety war hawk in that position. But what she actually does in the position remains to be seen. There is that old saying that the system will change you before you change it. Tulsi's made it this far in the game, remaining anti-war. I'm skeptical and excited to see what she does with the role. She's not perfect. Her track record on Israel is horrible. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But I think this is a step in the right direction for world peace. I'm not naive. I'm not overstating the importance of what her being in that position really means, but it's very interesting that she managed to find herself in that position of power. Never thought an anti-regime change person would be the head of national intelligence. If she ends up like everyone else, I won't be surprised. I'll just be disappointed. But I hope she does good with her role. Congratulations to Tulsi. That's all for the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you're excited about Tulsi and her new role. Let me know what you're skeptical of. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and I will see you guys in the next video.